Welcome to our show. All the good ones
are taken, also known as AtGoat.
I'm Alex.
And I'm Megan.
And this is our podcast. So, Megan, how was your week?
It was really good. You know, I've had a lot of things going on, a lot of balls in the air. Earlier today, we had our photo shoot, which was really fun.
It was really fun. Shout out to Amy.
Yeah, go Amy.
Whoop, whoop.
I was going to say she'll be in Italy when this releases, but I don't think that'll be true. But she is going away to Italy to get married.
That is so exciting.
So excited to see the pictures. She's a great friend, so I'm excited for her and so thankful that she was here taking pictures for us.
They're going to have a great time.
Yeah, how was your week, Alex?
It was good. I'm finishing up the last of our move, thankfully. I'm going to go move some stuff after this, even though I feel like crap. But yeah, so we're finishing up my move today. Thank goodness, because it's been hot and it's been hell, and I'm very glad to get it over with. And yeah, we just came back from vacation, which was fun.
Annual friend river trip.
Woo! I had so much fun. I did come out a day late because I needed time to just like roll around, but I'm genuinely glad that I came. It was so much fun.
It was a blast.
Yeah, I love my friends, my little friend group.
I'm so glad that we get to do that every year.
I know. I feel very good, very lucky for y'all. So, our book today. It's our first romance.
It is our first romance, and both of us are pretty big romance readers, I'd say. Mm-hmm. And part of the reason why we named our podcast All the Good Ones Are Taken is kind of in that romance vein of like all of the like good fictional men are taken.
Yup.
So
they're sadly not 3D, but
they are 2D.
They are 2D, in fact.
They are just words, actually.
They are in my imagination. So, yeah, I was excited for this book. It's our first romance. Although I would kind of consider Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow a romance, but like not fully in the romance genre.
Yeah, that's actually a really interesting debate that I read in a book called Thank You for Listening by Julia Whalen, who's a very famous audiobook narrator.
Oh.
And she's also a writer. And so actually when I picked up that book, I thought it was going to be a memoir.
Tomorrow.
No. Thank You for Listening by Julia Whalen.
Like,
and because she's an audiobook narrator, so I thought it was a memoir, but then it was just like a cute little romance. I actually adored it. I think I gave it 5 out of 5 stars.
Aww.
But that kind of like sparks the debate of what differentiates a romance versus a like woman's literature.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really interesting. And typically romances, or not typically, always romances end in them being together.
Right.
Whereas women's literature
not always.
So
right.
I would consider more of Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow to be in that like woman's literature vein, but it's definitely a lot more than that.
Absolutely. It's not just one facet, I would say. But this book is for sure 100% romance through and through.
Absolutely.
Thank goodness. And so, Megan, why don't you give us a quote from today's book?
Yeah. And I feel like I'm finally there, that place I've always wanted to be, the other side of the lit kitchen windows I could see from my childhood street, where rooms are filled with love and noise and squabbling.
This week's book is Happy Place
by Emily Henry.
Yay! So this is our one sentence synopsis. So it's two people who are obviously in love with each other, aren't together anymore, and then suddenly are. And then, of course, like we do, put that into ChatGPT, and this is what it popped out. Two people who are unmistakably in love with each other find themselves apart, but destiny intervenes, bringing them back together. Thank you, ChatGPT. And then, of course, we always throw in the Goodreads synopsis, which reads, a couple who broke up months ago make a pact to pretend to still be together for their annual week-long vacation with their best friends in this glittering and wise new novel from #1 New York Times bestselling author Emily Henry. All right, you want to dive into the summary?
Harriet and Wynn have been the perfect couple since they met in college. They go together like salt and pepper, honey and tea, lobster and rolls. Except now, for reasons they're still not discussing, they don't. They broke up 6 months ago and still haven't told their best friends, which is how they find themselves sharing the largest bedroom at the main cottage that has been their friend group's yearly getaway for the last decade. Their annual respite from the world where for one vibrant blue week, they leave their daily lives, have copious amounts of cheese, wine, and seafood, and soak up the salty coastal air with the people who understand them most. Only this year, Harriet and Wen are lying through their teeth while trying not to notice how desperately they still want each other, because the cottage is for sale, and this is the last week they all have together in this place. They can't stand to break their friends' hearts, so they'll play their parts. Harriet will be the driven, surgical resident who never starts a fight, and Wen will be the laid-back charmer who never lets the cracks show. It's a flawless plan, if you look at it from a great distance and through a pair of sunscreen-smeared sunglasses. After years of being in love, how hard can it be to fake it for 1 week in front of those who know you best?
Wow, sunscreen smeared sunglasses was a lot. Okay, so good job, Meagan. So it got 4.21 stars on Goodreads, and it was published on April 25th, 2023. A little bit about Emily Henry. She's a white American woman and the #1 New York Times bestselling author of Book Lovers, The People We Meet on Vacation, and Beach Read. She lives and writes in Cincinnati and the part of Kentucky just beneath it.
So you might have noticed last week and this week we kind of included the race of the authors, and we just wanted to be like conscientious of like the race and nationality and gender of who we're reading. We're trying to be as diverse as possible, and although we kind of have our next few books planned out, we are keeping in mind who we're reading. I literally have a spreadsheet of, nationality, gender, and race, and any other like otherness. So I just want to implore you, dear readers, to also be conscientious of who you're reading. Typically as white women, we read a lot of white women, and that's great if that's what you like. But also, like, reading is about exploring and expanding. So think about what else you're consuming and, how you can use that to branch out and learn. So just wanted to include that.
Right. And it's not even just that we read a lot of white authors. It's that a lot of white authors are published, specifically women, and specifically in the romance industry, which is one of the highest selling genres of books. So we just find it really important to make sure that we are putting in effort to diversify our reads and to, even though we have a modest following at the moment, to give those authors of different genders, nationalities, a little bit of spotlight. So
yeah, you're absolutely right.
There we go. All right. You ready to dive into your thoughts? Dun, dun, dun. Take it away, Meagan.
Yeah. So I've read a lot of Emily Henry's works. I've read all 4 of her like big published books, starting with Beach Read, then People We Met on Vacation, then Book Lovers, and Happy Place. And so that's how she published them, and that's how I've read them. As they have come out. And I absolutely loved Beach Read. And then I liked The People We Met on Vacation a little bit less. And then Book Lovers absolutely fell flat for me. And The Happy Place brought it back up a little bit. But I think what my issue is with Emily Henry, and she's a fantastic writer, like it's not like I have an issue with the author, it's her writing is what I mean, is that she came out as like this rom-com, like queen of romance, like author, and she's moving into this kind of like sad romance era, which is great for her if that's where she wants to be, but it's just not what I'm expecting when I read her books. And so the last 2 have been more substantial, like rather than this like fluffy little fun romp.
Like a cozy.
Right. And so when I read these like bright pink books, I expect it to feel bright pink.
Which is a hot pink book. Like it's searing.
And it's so cute. Like
it is such a cute book.
Into like a lake and you're expecting it to be this cute little thing. And then I just like cried the whole time.
Well, and the name is literally Happy Place. Like you would think
I know.
Someone's going to be feeling happy. Like at least
please.
Everyone is miserable.
I know. And so I think my disconnect is there. Like I'm expecting and wanting this rom-com, this happy, fluffy, cozy romance. And her last 2 books just haven't been that. And I feel like for people who have read Book Lovers and Happy Place before her others might feel it to be like a fantastic read. And I'm just not getting that because I have her other work to compare it to.
Right. I can definitely see that. Like, I haven't read any Emily Henry books until now. And so this was my first one, and I loved it, as we will talk about. But, you know, I don't have your perspective of reading her other work.
Right.
So I don't know, like, where she was starting from and where we're at now.
Right. But I will say that I told a few people that it was going to be really sad because I just, like, cried throughout the whole thing. And so everyone who I told that to thought someone was going to die or is dying or whatever throughout the whole thing. So I feel like I like made expectations a lot sadder than they were gonna turn out to be. So
yeah, I mean, when you told me you read this book, because you read it before me,
yeah,
you literally were like, I did not like this book. It is extremely sad. And I was like, oh God, why are we even reading it? But it's funny because as I read it, I ended up loving it. And I even texted you, like, in the first couple of chapters, I was like, does Wynn die of cancer? Like, I was like, tell me if he has cancer right now. Like, I was like, someone's going to die. Someone has cancer. This is not a happy ending, nor is this a happy place. So
accurate. But thankfully, no one dies.
Yay.
So the majority of this book's setting is in Harriet's happy place, like the vacation house in Knott's Harbor in Maine. Alex, do you have a happy place or a place that you went to growing up that you kind of considered your happy place?
Yeah, I actually related to Harriet in this book a lot because, like, as you know, my parents live in New Hampshire. While it's not Maine, but we do summer in Maine sometimes. And for those who know, like, Old Orchard Beach, like, we go there all the time. So I was like, oh, yeah, like, I know about Lobster Fest. I know about all the wicked piss of shit. Like, I know it. So I was like, yay, like, because I love New England. Like,
yeah.
Would I live there personally? No, I would not, but definitely a great vacation spot. So this just reminded me of my dad's house and all the good vibes there. What about you? Do you have a happy place?
I wrote this question, then didn't think about it for me.
It's hard. Like, I don't really have like, Harriet in the book, she's like consciously chooses a happy place to go to. I don't really do that.
I don't either. I mean, I have happy memories, like all of the places I go, you know, but I don't know. My life's still young. Maybe I'll have one later.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't think she does it as more of like a meditation exercise, you know, but of course, like, to each of the people in this book, like, their happy place is in Maine, like, where they like, become friends and stuff like that. But yeah, like, I don't really sit here and I'm like, okay, go to your happy place, go to your happy place. I just like survive. Like, I just go forth.
I do remember in 6th grade, we had to write down our happy places. And I wrote, so my parents had just redone our house. And I was like, the bathroom, because it's really serene in there. Like, it was like greens and blues.
Yeah, that's a good
And
happy
so I
place.
just like sat in the bathroom and would just like think.
Yeah.
And I liked it there.
There you go. That's a good spot. If I had to pick, I would say my bed. Like,
Oh, well.
I like to be horizontal. And I like to
Absolutely. So yeah, it's my bed or my reading chair over there that is currently full of stuff.
Hell yeah.
So like our last episode, this book oscillates between present day and past. For the podcast purpose, we're just going to make it mainly the present day storyline. We'll talk about the past like intermittently, but we're just mainly following the present just for brevity.
Yeah.
So our intro is us meeting the main character, Harriet, or as she's known as Harry, which freaking cute name. And her two best friends, Cleo and Sabrina, they were random roommates their first year of college. And I really liked the quote on the first page. The most important friendships in my life all came down to a decision made by strangers, chance. And I thought that was really sweet.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I love the name Harriet or Harry, but I thought it didn't fit her at all.
No, I don't see, like, from her character radiating Harriet at all.
No. Or Harry. She didn't fit that at all.
No.
That was a dissonance for me. So present day, they live across, her and her friends all live across the country, but they still meet yearly at Sabrina's dad's vacation home in Maine. We meet the rest of the friend group. So there's Parth, which is Sabrina's boyfriend, Kemi, which is Cleo's girlfriend, and Wen, which is Harry's fiance turned ex. But the thing is, no one knows that they broke up, and she was planning on telling them on this trip. However, her friends surprise her with Wen's presence because Sabrina has some important news they need to share. So first, Sabrina's dad is selling the vacation home in Maine. And second, Sabrina and Parth are engaged and are getting married in a super small ceremony with just them on Saturday. They're at their favorite place with their favorite people. So Harry and Wynn decide that they have to fake their engagement for the week and can't ruin their best friend's wedding. So in her mind, she's having this inner dialogue of like losing her fiance and losing her happy place in 1 year. I personally don't think this is how I would have done that. I
literally wouldn't be able to. Like, I'd be like, well, I need to go home now.
Yeah. Well, I'm also very direct. Like, yeah. I'm a super open book. So if you ask me a question, you're going to get way more than you bargained for. And there's no way that I could be like kissing.
Like faking it.
No.
Yeah.
Like fake dating is different. This is like forcing a relationship that is already broken.
Yeah, absolutely. What did you think of Harriet, like her character?
She bothered me. So the thing about Emily Henry's characters they are so relatable. They are real people with real problems.
I related a lot to Harriet.
And I liked that a lot.
Yeah.
I related to her family situation a lot.
Yeah.
I related to her a lot, but I think when you see those issues on paper, you're like, fuck.
Like, come on, girl.
Those are my issues too. Like, I don't want to read about the issues that I'm going through.
Yeah, I see that.
So, I mean, I don't know. What did you think about Harriet?
Like you said, I related to her a lot. I thought she was, like I said in the beginning, it's kind of hard to compare like Henry's characters to her other books because I have only read this one. Yeah. But like you said, I thought they were really relatable. I thought they presented like real world issues. Like this is shit we're thinking about, on the day to day in the broader spectrum of life. So I liked Harriet. I obviously didn't like some of the things she did or said, of course. But overall, I liked Harriet a lot. What did you think of Wynn?
Well, so going back to Harriet, my biggest issue with her was that she couldn't say anything.
Yeah.
Like, she could not speak her feelings at all.
Yeah.
And I understand to an extent of being like, there are a couple scenarios throughout the book that I'm like, I understand not wanting to share your feelings because you don't want to burden someone who's going through a hard time.
Right.
But also, if that person that you don't want to burden breaks up with you out of the blue, maybe you should have a conversation about why that happened.
Yeah. I feel like she literally wasn't able to process that shit. Like, she like refused to process. She was like, blank wall.
Yeah.
That's it. Like,
and that's not something that I can, like, I could do myself or see other people doing, like any of my friends. So it was a weird, like, that didn't correlate in my brain, I guess.
Yeah.
So her miscommunications really bothered me.
And that's what it comes down to, like a whole bunch of miscommunication. Like, if people would just sit down and talk about what the fuck they're feeling, then we wouldn't have a book.
I know. I was re-listening to Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, and I was like, everything would have been solved if they just went to therapy and talked. Like,
isn't that always the case?
But yeah, no, I loved Wynn. I thought he was really cute.
I loved Wynn. Literally the ideal man.
It was interesting how she portrayed, like Henry portrayed him through Harry's eyes.
Yeah.
Of like, he's this awful person. And then all of a sudden you realize like, no, it was just like two compatibly incompatible people. Like, yeah. So I thought it was interesting. What did you think about Wynn?
I really liked Wynn. He just radiated like that cozy, like golden retriever boy. I like when couples don't necessarily like match each other fully. Like, I like when one is more like Harriet is Harriet and Wynn is like this cozy like person. And so I feel like they complement each other really well. And I don't know, I just feel like Wynn taught Harriet so much about love, and
I think they both taught each other a lot.
They both taught each other a lot. Yeah, so I enjoyed their relationship. And I liked Wynn as a character. I did.
Yeah.
Very wholesome farmer ranch.
I know, I loved
pine smelling homeboy.
I did like a lot about Wynn.
Yeah.
So this book talks a lot about like the theme of family. Harry and Wynn have been broken up for 5 months before this vacation, and he ended it with a 4-minute phone call. So a big theme throughout this novel is her parents love being loveless, and they gave up everything for her and her sister so that they could take care of them. One quote I liked that kind of like related to this family thing was, I was more scared of marrying someone who couldn't bring himself to leave me or to keep loving me. It was why I hadn't let myself cry when Wynn dumped me or ask for answers or a second chance. I knew the only thing more painful than being without him would be being together knowing I no longer truly had him. And ultimately, that's why he breaks up with her, because he thinks she's no longer happy in the relationship because she won't talk to him or plan the wedding or do anything while he's in this like deep depression. And he's just doing essentially what she asked, but there was no communication in that.
Yeah, I mean, here Harriet is literally in her way of navigating this like rough time with Wynn is like to just not burden him more because of his dad's death, right? Which is obviously not the right answer because she's hurting, he's hurting, no one is talking about shit. They're just like basically drowning in their misfortune and it blows up, obviously. So clearly not the way to handle things, people. Don't do that.
So another quote a little bit later in this book I liked about her parents was, "I'm the culmination of their lost dreams, their missed other lives, and at the same time, they're proud of me." And I feel like so many people relate to this pressure that their parents unintentionally put on us.
Yeah.
Of like, I gave up everything so that you can be everything.
Yeah.
And of course, that's not, they don't mean it to be a burden. They don't mean it that way at all, but it's, you feel it.
Which I feel like is a big theme in this book too. I mean, not just off the family thing, but like, what does life really mean to us? Like, if we're not enjoying what we're doing career-wise, if we're not enjoying like where we're living, like it's as simple as making a decision to do something else. Yeah. And like we have that power. And I think going back to the family thing, like Harriet had a lot of pressure to like make things okay for her family because things were never okay for her family, which I related to a lot. And it's like by doing what you can to like not rock the boat, to not like, to make sure that you have your shit in a row, to make sure that you're feeling okay all the time. It's like, okay, well, that will make sure that they're okay and things will be better. But obviously, as a child, we don't understand that that's not how it works, you know? So I can see how that plays out in Harriet and Wynn's relationship later on, for sure.
Absolutely. So back to the story. She wakes up blacked out from their first night with them cuddling, and she's wearing her favorite shirt of his that she shipped back to him the day after they broke up. So she freaks out and he assures her like nothing happened. Later that day, she has a flashback, and this is kind of why I wanted to include it, because this flashback was so cute.
It was so cute.
I know. She she threw up on her shirt and she asks him like in this blacked out, like slurred state, like, "Did you get me the shirt about the rodeos?" And he says, "I got it." And she says, "I love this shirt." And he says, "I know, that's why I brought it." Like,
it's just, even from the beginning, like when you love someone as deeply as that, like you just know that it's still there, like, and that there's an untold story, an untold conversation that they need to have. Because 5 months no communication after a 4-minute breakup call when you've been in love and planning to get married, I'm sorry,
for 8 years.
For 8 years, ain't no way. Ain't no way. And he also says like that whole thing, like, "Okay, arms up, baby." Like, it was just cute. It was so cute.
It was really precious. So my first pink tab, which is my cry tabs, I think I counted 14.
Oh,
honestly.
my God.
I cried. To be fair, I started my period right after this book.
The timing.
I am a very big mood reader and just like mood person in general. So like if I listen to a sad song, I'm in a sad mood.
Yeah.
If I read a sad book, I'm in a sad mood. And so ever since I've read this book, I've just been like feeling really down. And
sometimes I listen to sad stuff just to like make myself cry. Or like I'll watch a sad TV show, so I'll be like, I'm gonna wallow in this. It's probably not healthy, but
I think it actually is.
soak it up.
Like, you have to feel the feelings. For me, I'm like, nope.
No, I'm like, let's wallow. Like, let's eat in bed and cry.
Yeah, I'm definitely not that. So I think that also kind of plays, because when I was rewriting these notes, I was like, you know, I didn't hate it.
Yeah.
But anyway, my first pink tab, it was on page 122. So the group is going to a national park, and Harry and Wynn end up getting trapped in the wine cellar which from there, I knew Sabrina set this whole thing up.
Oh, yeah. I knew early on.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I'm sorry. There ain't no way that no one knows. Ain't no way.
I am surprised that, like, well, Cleo mentioned it, like, tried to. Like,
yeah.
Is everything okay?
Yeah. Well, it was just, like, how Harriet mentions that, like, Sabrina's, like, avoiding her and, like, not really, like, allowing them space to talk, like, one-on-one. I was like, this bitch knows.
Yeah.
This bitch knows.
So the wine cellar that they're trapped in is the first place that they had their first kiss. And he asks if she's happy too. And that was like, I just started crying because you know that means like he is happy. Yeah. She's asking like, are you also happy? And she's not, obviously. Like this whole book is just like her scramblings of misery.
Well, and like I just like try to put myself in Harriet's position. Like obviously I've never been in that position, but like trying to think about being in love with someone and being in a relationship for so long and then literally like breaking up on a 4-minute phone call and then seeing him for the first time on your friend vacation. And one of the first things he says to you is like, so you're happy too, right? Oh, so you're thriving.
Yeah.
I'm dying inside. Like,
I mean, and like,
what a stab in the gut. Like,
seriously. And I can't imagine, like, I just can't imagine a relationship would end that way.
No. I don't know if it's because I'm a little like woo woo, but I would not let that be the last
like you can break up with me.
Yeah, but like we're gonna have a discussion about it, and more importantly, we're gonna have a discussion in person about it.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, like I'll fly down there, whatever.
Exactly.
Over the phone, 4 minutes, absolutely not. Mm-mm. We can say, listen, we can have a discussion like adults, and then we can decide what to do.
It's giving Back to December by Taylor Swift, which is there's like 3 and whatever, sorry Swifties, 3 like 31 seconds or something, but like that's the intro
time. That's wild.
And then she starts the song.
Badass.
Yeah.
Love her.
What a queen. But so I also just really hate second chance romances, like make me want to die misery.
Really,
honestly my least favorite trope. Because it's always this miscommunication.
Yeah.
It's never like a, well, we just weren't compatible, move on kind of thing. Like, just,
right.
I don't know.
I feel like they're really hard to do. And like, it's frustrating as readers because clearly we're screaming the whole time like, oh, they obviously belong together. Yeah. Why is this not happening? Yeah. Well, the answer is we wouldn't have a book if it was happening. But it's also like the reason why they break up has to be so good. And the reason why they get back together has to be good as well.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just hard. I think Henry did a good job with this book, but in other like second chance romances, not so good.
Yeah. I disagree. I think it could have been better.
You think it could have been better?
I think it just wasn't believable. Like the characters are realistic. They have like, it's not that, it's these weird like there's like the no progression way that you're gonna just let a 4-minute call be the end of a relationship.
Right.
No matter how mad you are, like that's just not it. And the second you see him, you're gonna say we're broken up. Like you're not just gonna
pretend and go along with it.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like that was Harriet's move at the beginning, but then it was Wynn that came immediately up to her and was like, "Hey, honey." And she was like, whoa, what the fuck is going on?
You're right.
I think, like, I mean, who's to say? Because it's obviously fiction and it wasn't written like this, but who's to say how Harriet would have, like, gone about it had Wynn not done that? So
that's a good point.
Yeah.
So another theme that is strong throughout this is the, like, friend and, like, found family theme. Mm-hmm. We haven't talked too much about this, but she has these, like, 2 core best friends. And she keeps having these little heart squeezes, and she describes it as the feeling of being so grateful to have something worth missing.
Yeah, that was really sweet.
And as actually we were talking about earlier today, I've never personally had like a friend group. I've always had really good friends, but never, like my friends were never friends with each other kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But I know you have a friend group that you met in high school, and they are fantastic. They have both helped us with this podcast to help designing logos and banners and all of that.
They're my best friends.
They're great, but I know y'all have been there for each other through your ups and downs, and it kind of like Harry, Cleo, and Sabrina just kind of remind me of y'all.
It did really remind me of Leanne and Jade. Shout out to y'all. Leanne and I and Jade met in high school. I actually met Leanne first, my freshman year of high school, and then Jade moved to our hometown from Georgia our sophomore year, and we've been friends ever since, which is kind of wild to think about. But yeah, like this book was so cool for me to read in the same way because I was like, oh, like that's like us, you know, like thankfully we do live close to each other, but like I can imagine that this is how our relationship would be like if we had moved, you know, separately. So I loved it. Yeah. They're very cute. What did you think of Cleo and Sabrina?
I loved Cleo.
She's cute.
Sabrina was cool.
Sabrina annoyed me.
Yeah. I liked that she was this like beautiful, like Elizabeth Taylor-esque woman, but had this like ginormous laugh, and the way that she's described is very sweet, but her like, and I think it's probably just the lawyer in her.
Yeah.
She's very like conniving and beat around the bush to get what she wants kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I see that. I thought she was cute. I mean, like, she annoyed me in the fact that, like, I felt like she was a little, like, too direct and too, like, okay, well, let's do this. We're going to do this. And I was like, girl, let these people live their vacation. Like, I was like, let them enjoy. But there has to be that character, you know, because no one would. She even said herself, she was like, this vacation would not have happened if it wasn't for me calling y'all.
We wouldn't be friends if...
Essentially, yeah.
You weren't.
So there needs to be someone taking action, and that's Sabrina. Just sometimes I was like, girl, please. But,
Yeah. So back to the story. Harry is in the bathroom gathering her thoughts during the movie, and Wen goes and buys her sweets, and he doesn't even like sweets, which I thought was really sweet. And we learn that his dad died and his mom was sick, and, quote, everything combusted at once, and somehow I still thought we'd make it. When he promised to love me forever, and I believed him, that was what made me the angriest with both of us. Which, pink tab number 2.
Yep. Yep. I don't know. They keep getting thrown together in these situations.
Because Sabrina keeps planning it.
And it's like, I think that's another thing that annoyed me about Sabrina is like when we do find out that she knew from the very beginning, which we guessed early on, but like when we officially know the end, it's like, I don't know. She just didn't stop to think about like how torturous this was for them, you know, like knowing how in love they were, and then like
they are,
yeah, and that they're just like each suffering and forcing them to be like in such close proximity. I was like, shitty. No.
So Harriet and Wen are back on good terms, and Harriet's talking about her pottery, which she's been using as a, like, respite from her medical degree. And she's showing him some pictures, and they're looking at one that's inspired by his dead dad, and she wants to give it to his mom. And he says, let me buy it from you. And she says, it's not worth anything. And he says, it is to me. Which I was like...
It's just so good. Like, it's just such a sweet thing.
Yeah.
You know? Like, when you can know someone intimately and you can, like, be in love with someone and, like, even on a friend-to-friend level, you know? In a platonic way. But to, like, actually stop and pause to, like, really appreciate someone doing something just because they love doing it, not because necessarily they're good at it or they're making money for it, is just such an intimate thing. And it's so correct.
Yeah.
It's just so wholesome.
It's Wen is like the definition of like sweet.
Yeah, I agree. It's just so lovely. I love them.
And like, you know, it's her passion. Like, it's what she does because she hates her job, and she can't admit that she hates her job because she's a doctor and she's worked her entire life to be a doctor, and she can't quit now because she's about to like become an actual doctor.
And the pressure from her parents, the pressure that she puts on herself to make money, and like, I don't know, she does actively want to do something good for the world, but it's like she also has all these other like weights weighing down on her because of the job, and she obviously just doesn't like it, and that's okay.
Yeah, you're allowed to change your mind.
Absolutely.
Which is a really hard thing, I think, for a lot of us.
It was really hard.
Especially when you go to school for 300 years and you're like, NVM.
Yeah. Well, and you just like, you pay all that money. You physically are there or taking classes online. Like, you're spending the time, you're spending the money, and you're also like weighing it against your future. Like, okay, well, if this doesn't work out, like, what's next? And sometimes you don't know that either. You just don't, you know that you don't like what you're doing now. And change is just very scary in general.
It is. That's kind of one thing that I've recently done is like, I realize that I'm content in my job,
right?
But I don't find purpose in it.
Yep.
And so I'm happy to continue doing this and continue with my master's degree. But I wanted to have other purposes. So that's why I like reached out to Alex about wanting to start a podcast and why I started volunteering, because I wanted to find other outlets that were important to me.
Absolutely.
And I mean, that's exactly what Harry's doing with this pottery. She wanted to find a creative outlet to put all of the feelings that she's feeling into. And she, acknowledges like, I'm not good, which we don't know if she's good or not. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
It's what she's enjoying doing.
Yeah. And I think everyone needs that. Like, it's unfortunate, but kind of how society is set up today is like, not everyone is going to be making money from something that they love to do. Like, they're most likely going to have to find a job that allows them to simply live.
Right.
And so everybody needs like something else, something other to put their time and like focus on outside of work for just making money. And like you said, like, this is our podcast, rock climbing. I like rock climbing, like stuff like something that you can do that's like for yourself, and there's no pressure money making wise or from anything else, that you can just do and like do it.
Just to do enjoy.
It. Yeah, exactly.
And you don't have to enjoy every moment of it.
No.
Because you're not supposed to.
Shit gets hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So at this point in the book, I really did like how she laid out that all of the flashbacks were happy memories and happy places. But as we get towards the end of the book, we learn of the unhappy place, which refers to her parents' house, and the dark place, which refers to Wen's dad's death.
Yep.
I thought that was a really interesting way to do it.
Yep, absolutely. I hated the back and forth at first because obviously I was like, I want to know what happens. Like, they better be together. But now that I finished and I am satisfied with the ending, it's like, oh, okay, I see why we did that. And I do like it because we're seeing the events as they unfold in the present, but we're also understanding like what led to all of this. And it makes sense as like time goes on throughout the book. So.
Yeah. And I have this random quote that I couldn't find a place for it to go, but it was another pink tab for me. And it says, "Don't you know he hasn't been yours to cry over for a long time?" And I was just like,
it's just like,
but he is yours to cry about, because
like,
you never
dare they
did.
say that.
Yeah,
I was like, have the audacity to put
I know
it there. Let me see. I also have a quote in here. This is a little bit before Meagan's quote, but essentially, Wen and Harriet are going over like Harriet's experience with her parents and everything. And he says, sometimes when things go wrong, it's easy to blame someone else because it simplifies things. It takes any responsibility out of your hands. And I don't know if your parents did that to you and your sister, or if somewhere along the way you took that blame on yourself, but it's not your fault. None of it. Your parents made their decisions, and I'm not saying their situation was easy or that they didn't do the best they could, but it wasn't enough, Harriet. If you could even think that, if you could ever even fucking wonder if they regretted you, then they didn't do enough. And I was literally sobbing. I was like, like it. And it's just so facts. It's just so facts.
Like, I couldn't talk for a minute because I just got chills.
It's so facts. Because, like, we can easily say that our parents, they probably didn't know everything. Oh. They did not know how to do everything. They probably had really good intentions.
Of course.
But at the end of the day, we are human. We make mistakes. That also doesn't separate the fact that, like, as children, we did not decide to be here. Like, we did not say, well, sign me up for this plane of existence. Like, no, but we're here. And, just to think of a child ever thinking like, well, I bet my parents like regret having me. They didn't do enough to make sure that you knew that that was never the case. And that's facts.
Yeah. And I will say, like, I'm I'm adopted, and I, growing up, never once thought, like, I had every reason to be like, oh, my birth parents didn't want me. But I never had that. My parents were so good about saying, we wanted you so much, and your birth parents wanted you to have the best life that you could possibly have, and it's not with us. And so it sucks that when Harriet's in this situation, she has this pressure of, well, hopefully I'm living up to what everything that they gave up for me. And it doesn't
matter. It doesn't matter if you're living up to it, because they ended up having you as their child. That was their decision. Whether they chose to like celebrate your existence because you simply existed, or because you did amazing things like education wise and career wise, that's where the line gets a little like blurry, you know?
The one job of a parent, the one job is to love your child unconditionally.
Yep.
You can not provide a home. You cannot provide food. Your job is to love them. Like, that's it.
That's it. And they, as a child, your job is simply to be a child.
Yeah.
You don't need to be sitting there wondering like, well, how can I make this situation better for my parents and myself? Like, no, babe, you need to just simply be a child, and they can figure that shit out later.
Yeah.
So I was sobbing.
Yeah.
At that point.
Oof.
Facts. Yeah.
So back to the story. She finally confronts him, but nothing's really resolved.
Nope. Of course not.
She's learning to talk, but they're not saying shit really.
They're just saying words and hoping something sticks, and it does not.
Other than like, they just agree that they'll always love each other. That was pretty much it. So she decides that he's happy and she can't ask him to be with him again, but they can at least have one night together in their happy place.
Yeah.
So all of their friends get into a fight. Sabrina knew about the breakup this whole time, and the whole trip was essentially to get them to be together, which we knew. That night, Harriet's in bed thinking, and this inner dialogue makes me realize that she just doesn't know what unconditional love is, which, good segue for us. We all make mistakes, and she thinks that if she messes up, she won't be loved.
Yes. Okay, so literally this is where the quote was. So she says, all my life when I thought of my future, that was what I pictured, not a career, the things I thought would come with it. Happiness, love, and safety. And that dream had been enough for a long time. What was school if not a chance to earn your worth, to prove again and again that you were measurably good? Oh. One more deal I struck with, a disinterest universe. If I'm good enough, I'll be happy. I'll be loved. I'll be safe. Instead, I push away everyone I love. It makes me so sad because, like, just to even second guess for a second that, like, you're not worth love because you haven't achieved XYZ, or you're not XYZ or any XYZ at all. Like, it's so sad and heartbreaking to me because, like, no matter who you are, no matter where you are, like, if you are a human on this earth, like, you are deserving of love, period. And, like, I've thought about it, like, my worth, and, like, the sense of love. I'm sure you have as well. Like, are we worthy human beings? And it's just, this life is already enough, okay? We don't need to be dumping on more of, like, okay, well, am I even worthy of love? Am I even worthy to, like, exist? Like, no, that's just, life is already hard enough. And it makes me sad.
Yeah, I think that was something that I had to unlearn because I was a very high achiever in school. And so I thought, you know, my worth was tied to, like, what spot I was in school or what university I got into, you know, who I married, how many kids I had.
Yeah.
And that all took a lot of, like, doesn't fucking matter.
It doesn't matter.
You only get to live once, and just if you can try to be as happy as you can, because it's not always going to be happy.
Nope.
And it's not supposed to always be happy.
No.
So just learning that it's okay when you fall and it's okay when you're happy is, you know, all you can do.
Mistakes are good. Mistakes are healthy. Failure is something that we learn from. And you can't experience the happy without the other part of it.
Right.
You know, we don't understand the definition of happy without understanding the other things.
And we were just talking about that earlier. I me and my husband 2 years ago were in an apartment fire and lost a lot of our belongings. Probably like 80% of them. And, you know, we were saying like, it sucks that it happened, but without it, we wouldn't have adopted our cats, or we wouldn't have started this podcast, or all of these things, this like butterfly effect of like, without the loss that we experienced, we wouldn't be so grateful for all of the beautiful things that we have now.
Yeah.
And whether that's material or not, you know, we did lose some valuable things to us, but we get to know that like every moment we have is fragile and precious because of that.
Absolutely. Like so many good things happen afterwards. Mm-hmm. And I know bad things happen as well. But again, like going through those tough times, going through those really hard moments in life, like that's how we understand how to appreciate when it's good and when good things are good. Yeah.
So this next part for me, at least, will be a little quote heavy. Because one, I was crying a lot, and two, Henry's a great writer. So the first one is, I wasn't afraid they'd be mad at me exactly for how things ended with Wen. I was afraid of their sadness. I was afraid of ruining this trip that meant so much to them. I was afraid of ruining this place where they've always been happy. I was afraid they would resent me and never say it, afraid they wouldn't like me as much without Wen because I didn't like myself as much without Wen. I was afraid they'd ask me what went wrong, and no matter what answer I cobbled together from the rubble, they'd see right through it. They'd know I wasn't enough, I'm not the brilliant doctor my parents wanted me to be, and I'm not the person who could give Wen the happiness he deserves, and I'm not the friend Sabrina and Cleo needed. I've tried so hard to be good to deserve the people around me, and I've still managed to hurt them all.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, another quote of what you just said, you know, the whole theme of deserving love is so...
It's so sad.
And yeah, so deeply embedded in this undercurrent of the book.
Yeah, I mean, and like if there's one thing that we can learn from Harriet's experience in this book is like, you don't have to try so hard to be like good all the time. You know, like just doing what you can, doing the best that you can is enough. Like you don't have to like save everyone from like doing, like having confrontation or like trying to make sure that there are no bad feelings ever.
Right.
Because that's
first of all,
a little bit delusional.
Yeah.
It's a little bit delusional. It's a little bit delulu, but yeah, because like no matter what, if you're interacting with another human being, there's going to be confrontation. There's going to be conflict somewhere along the line, you know? And it's all about how you handle it. It's not about, Harriet was all like avoid, and you just can't be doing that. Like, because when you're doing that, not only are you not allowing yourself to be like genuine and in the moment, but you're also kind of like manipulating the situation. You're trying to have control over it. Yeah. And that's nothing against Harriet or people who experience this, because I experienced this. It's just you have to be self-aware enough to not let that happen so that you can have a more genuine experience and you're not manipulating others.
Yeah. I mean, I'm terrified of confrontation with people I love.
Yeah, it's hard.
I'm really scared of it, and it's something that I, work through daily. But
it's no one likes it. No one likes it. No one likes to have to sit down and be like, okay, well, let's talk about this deep shit. Like, it's just, you have to do it. It's just something that you have to do. And
if you're feeling something, it's valid.
It's valid. Exactly. And it's always worth being brought to attention. So.
Yeah. I mean, I know that like if Shelby and I, God forbid, ever get divorced.
That's never going to happen.
It won't. But if it did, I would feel like I wouldn't have liked myself as much without Shelby. And I know my friends would be like, no. Like, you are a whole person with or without him kind of thing.
Separate from y'all's relationship.
Right. But I understand that feeling of like, I'm not who I want to be without him.
Yeah. I can't relate, but that sounds lovely and terrible at the same time.
It's scary.
It's scary. Like, life is hard. Life is scary.
So another quote is, "It never occurred to me that coasting along on other people's whims and feelings could be read as apathy, that they might think I just don't care."
Yeah.
And I think that summarized the entire book ultimately.
Yeah. Because that was
yeah.
Wynn's problem. He literally thought that she didn't give a fuck about
Yeah.
him, their relationship, their wedding, none of that.
Mm-mm.
When she was avoiding, like, being direct about her feelings and being direct about Wynn's feelings, that was her, like, in her mind, doing what she thought was best.
Right.
And to Wynn, that was like, okay, she doesn't love me.
Yeah.
Like, this is it.
Well, and like, what do you expect? Like,
yeah, I mean, truly, what do you expect? I just wish that, well, I'm not going to give Wynn too much of a hard time. Like, his dad literally had just died. He hated living in San Francisco. Homeboy
this was all on
making
Harry.
money. Yeah, this was all on Harriet. I do wish he would have been like, what's in your head right now? Like, you know, but
I think he did, though, didn't he? I mean, that was from my understanding. And she was just like, oh, I'm fine.
Yeah.
But also, even if he didn't, like, he doesn't have the capacity to deal with that right now.
No, and like,
if she brought it up, he would have been there for her.
Yeah.
But he couldn't be that lifeline that she needed at the moment. So at one point he says, we never fought when we were together if we had ... So that's him implying that maybe, like, if they had fought, if they had argued, if she at least gave one iota of a sentence,
yeah,
you know, they might have stayed together. And so she ends up, like, in this inner dialogue that she's having in bed. She's like, okay, I'm going to go fight. And so she, like, goes into his room and ends up, quote unquote, fighting with him. And he says, I'm glad. So I'm paraphrasing this a little bit. He says that I'm glad that I came to the main cottage, and I'm glad that I saw that you were angry with me, because at least I knew that you cared. So she is here, like, hiding all of her feelings, thinking that if she seems go with the flow, then people will allow her in their presence. And that's just not how it works. I know I'm guilty of acting this way. I'm sure, like, most people are.
Yep.
And I think a lot of women can feel this way. Sometimes it's almost like you're, like, gaslighting your own emotions away.
Yeah.
You're like, I can't feel anything because, like, his feelings are more valid than mine. Like, his dad just died. He's allowed to be more sad than I am. And that's just not fair
that's not
or
healthy.
The case.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
it's just not accurate.
Yeah, we're all allowed to feel. So everyone pretty much patches things up. And we can't find Sabrina on her wedding day. And Harry says, Sabrina didn't run because she doesn't want you. She ran because she's scared that in the end she won't be worth chasing.
Yeah.
Which is...
And I relate.
Yeah.
I relate. Yeah.
And I, like, sometimes when Shelby and I get into fights, he'll, like, give me my space. And I'm like, nope.
But, like, you should have come in here and said, like, whatever.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. I mean, like, I think everyone wants that. Everyone wants to be chased. Like, no one likes leaving an argument or a disagreement or, like, a scary situation and then just being, like, frankly left alone. I mean, there's something to be said about space and time alone, but there's also, it just feels good when you know that someone is coming for you. Yeah.
So they end up getting married, Sabrina and Parth, and Harry ends up moving to Montana with Wynn. But in my opinion, nothing was really resolved other than her career change, and, like, hopefully she'll communicate more.
I mean, is that essentially what happened? Yes. But, like, when I was reading it, I was like, this is amazing. They've solved all their problems. Like, they've worked on each other and now they're going to live together in Montana. Like, I was like, oh my God. Like, I think I was just being swept up in the story.
Yeah.
But, I mean, essentially, like, that is what happened. I think it's unfortunate that such a big problem happened because of non-communication. Like, it was a really simple fix. And I think that's where I can understand your problem with the book, because it's just not really realistic in that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, they live a happy love life together, and I'm very glad, and I loved it.
Well, I'm glad. But my overall summary is this book gave me, you know, real people with real problems, but an unreal, all-consuming love that you love in a romance, but also makes me want to puke.
I loved it. No puking.
Well, so I love it, but it just didn't, like, this unreal romance didn't fit with these real people and these real problems.
Yeah, I see that. Like, no way would, if Harry and Wynn were real,
right.
I'm putting air quotes, like, would their relationship play out like that? Ain't no way.
Mm-mm.
Right.
But I am a hater of, I put enemies to lover.
They're not
No,
I'm like enemies. They're not enemies to lovers.
But I'm a real hater of second chance romances. And overall, I enjoyed it for a second chance romance. Again, if Henry didn't write this, I might have liked it more because, again, I have this expectation of her that she has missed the mark twice for me. But I'm going to keep reading her because she is a great writer.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Maybe I'll change my perspective of her books and maybe it'll be a little bit better for me.
Yeah. I really love this book because I just felt like it was a really cozy read. I had not read Henry before, so, this was my first take of her writing. I really enjoyed it. There were times where I genuinely thought it was funny and, like, I could relate deeply to the characters. And I'm one to, like, relish in a sad love story. Like, I eat that shit up like yesterday's leftovers, okay? Because I don't know. Maybe it's just because I'm in that, like, time in my life where I'm like, like, I want to cry all the time. But
honestly, I'm feeling that recently.
Yeah.
So
Like, I just want to.
Maybe it's just summer.
I think it's just summer, and I'm not a summer girly, but I don't know. I thought the story was so cute. I love the concept of, like, a friend group having a yearly vacation together. Like, we could relate to that.
Yeah.
I love how, it's so hard in modern day to, like, keep up with friendships, and that just played out really well in this book. And, like, I like all of the things that Henry, like, points out in this book that are real and that we deal with on the day-to-day. I just love that. I love the fact that it was set in Maine. I felt like I've been to all these places, so I loved kind of feeling, like, comfortable and, like, I see what they're doing and, like, what they're eating and whatever. And I just love this story. Like, I love Wynn and I love Harriet. I don't like her name, like we said. But I love their relationship, and I thought the sex was so wholesome. I thought the sex was good. I thought, like, the things they said to each other were so good. And
they had great banter.
It was excellent. And although I've never had, like, a love like this before, like, I felt like
it doesn't exist.
Because it does not exist. Facts. Because this is fiction.
Well, and I think that is one thing that some romances can really bother me about, is that love is not all consuming like this.
No.
It is not like you can't breathe when the person walks in the room.
Yeah.
And I think that just bothers me in some romances.
It does.
And it's cute sometimes, but I didn't feel like this was the right book for that.
Or do it, yeah.
And I get it, but it just wasn't.
It's just not realistic.
Yeah.
Yeah. And although that is the case, like, it made me feel like I had lived this, like,
absolutely,
like, summer romance. Yeah. Like, I was like, oh, we're laying in the bed. Like, I was like,
I know.
I was like, like, I was like, oh, it was cute. I loved it. And so I did end up giving it 5 out of 5. Ooh, on Goodreads.
Nice. I think my score is a 3 out of 5. Again, I did enjoy it. It just wasn't my favorite, and compared to Henry's other writing, it just didn't hit the mark for me. But I don't regret reading it. I do think I would recommend to my romance girlies, because both you and my friend Caroline, shout out Caroline, loved it. So, I'd say read it with the caveat of it might not be for you.
There you go. I think that's facts. I think that's fair. Read it if you enjoy romance. It's not going to, like, blow your mind or change your life, but, like, is it a cute book that I enjoyed reading? Yes, I did.
Yeah, and that's what matters.
And that's what matters.
So when reading this, there were 2 songs that came to mind, and I think it was also because Taylor Swift's Speak Now, Taylor's version just came out. And I had I Can See You stuck in my head the whole time I was reading this. But honestly, all of the flashbacks of them falling in love in this, like, all-consuming, passionate whirlwind romance of, like, pining after each other but, like, not being able to touch each other in front of their friends, but then, like, secretly doing it, just imagining themselves together but not telling anyone, just felt so much like I Can See You by Taylor Swift, which is her, like, heist music video, and it's super cute, and I really thought that one fit well. And also the second one, once they got to Maine, and Wynn just keeps calling Harriet honey, even though he doesn't use pet names at all.
Yeah.
It reminded me of Babe from The Vault, Taylor's version on her Red album. which is a breakup song saying like, how could you do this, babe?
Yeah.
And I thought it was cute. And Babe is one of my favorite songs, even though that is an unpopular song amongst the Swifties. I thought it fit very well.
Why did I think like when you wrote Babe, like it reminds you of Babe? Like I thought of like the movie, like
the pig.
I was like, how does that relate? Okay, anyway.
It's the pink.
But the song. It's a pig. It's a pig. There you go. But yeah, I love that. Good.
Yeah.
All right. So that wraps up Happy Place by Emily Henry. And now for our next book, Tiny Beautiful Things by Cheryl Strayed, a collection of essays that is now a Hulu original series. Cool.
So email us at goatpod@gmail.com with suggestions for the pod or book recommendations. You can also check us out on social media at @goatpod on Instagram. You can find my bookstagram at peas_reads. I'm doing a new little thing on my bookstagram, so hopefully you like it. Let me know. And you can follow us on Goodreads.
Thank you so much for listening.
And this has been All the Good Ones
Are Taken.